Storage in games like Valheim is a huge deal. You get lots of items and you use a whole lot in crafting. So having this super clear and convenient chest system is going to make your Valheim playtime far more enjoyable. Today I'll show you how to get this epic text directly on your chest with multiple ways to make them look fantastic. This whole thing can even be made without defeating the first boss. The main thing people have clicked on this video for is likely going to be this awesome neat text directly on your chests. So I'll get to that right away. First you place your chest, whether it is a normal or reinforced chest. If it is a normal chest, have it turned around as the back is nice and clear with no extra texture. If reinforced, then the front is best as it is very clear. Then make sure you have a surface to the right of the chest that you can place a sign on. As a standard, this would usually be a wooden wall or something. Next, rotate the sign so the 3 diamonds are facing you. These diamonds show the text side of the sign. Now you are going to want to aim your cursor on the surface to the right of the chest. As that is the surface you will actually place the sign on, and line up the sign as it phases into the chest. Once lined up, if you move the cursor further back, the sign will phase into the chest completely, but the 3 diamond shapes will still be visible. This is because the text on a sign is slightly raised from the surface of the sign itself, likely to prevent the sign texture from interfering with the text. Once positioned where you want it and the sign is not visible on the front but the diamonds are, you can build the sign. This can be tricky to properly position, but with the normal chests, I'd advise just aiming the sign itself midway between the top and bottom of the chest before phasing. And with the reinforced chests, aim the top or bottom, whichever is easiest to make out from the angle you're placing, to these 2 points. This will have the text perfectly centered on the clear space of the chests. It's nearly ready at this point. We have the sign phased and positioned perfectly. Now we need to add the text and alter the horizontal positioning. This is done using the floating text sign method. When you put extra spaces on the end of some text on a sign, it keeps those spaces, but does not account for them when deciding line breaks, so it results in the text being pushed off the sign and appearing to float. Signs do have a character limit, so you can only push the text so far off the sign, but it is more than enough for this job. First, type the text you want to appear on the chest, and be sure it is not long enough to force a line break, as this will look awful. Then add a bunch of spaces. Press enter to see where it places the text and adjust the amount of spaces until the text is centered. If you do want to make multiple lines, you will need multiple signs. This can be done, but it will be a lot trickier to get a second sign in, and will require a whole lot of patience. You may be thinking that is a lot of effort to add signage to a chest, and it is, but it is also just so convenient. This isn't just about looking really good, this is also about you not accidentally clicking on a sign all the time when trying to access your storage. I wanted to neatly display what is in each chest, in a compact way that has the lowest chance possible of me accidentally clicking the sign instead of the chest, and this is what I came up with. Now, there are multiple ways to refine this, not so much the sign and text itself, but how the chests as a whole are displayed. You don't have to keep that wall that you used to put the sign in place, or the floor you used to place the chest onto. You can even have all of the chests in perfect rows tiered slightly backwards for each row and have them appear to float. But there are a number of things to consider when going for a design for your chest walls. The 2 primary considerations are that both the chest and the sign need to be supported. The chest does not count as support and will not support the sign. The sign does however count as support, but as the sign is usually further away from a surface than the chest, this will not generally be helpful, though it can be used in some circumstances. Be warned for using signs as support, as with the recent changes that made torches not support, this may happen with signs in the future. If you have placed the sign centered vertically where I mentioned, 9 times out of 10 removing the wall will be fine without any extra messing about, as the floor will support the chest and sign. That is, unless it is a reinforced chest. This can be easily fixed on a stone floor, as you can snap a wooden floor on top of it without too much difficulty, though sometimes without some fancy techniques you may need to either keep the wall in or add a pole. If you want floating chests, you will need to support the chest with something else. The best 2 items for this are wood beams and wooden quarter floors. Both will require you to measure things up a little beforehand, but it is very simple. First we need to set up the back brace that will hold the chests up. We're essentially going to set in place snap points for the braces themselves. There are a number of ways you could do this, so I'll show the way that will be usable for pretty much any setup you have. Your chest will be placed between 2 wood poles a quarter floor away from the wall. These poles are used for placement and can be deleted afterward. Using a 1 meter beam, snap it to one of the poles on the floor to get the central point between them. What we need to do now is get a snapping point for a beam half a metre upward. The game doesn't have pieces that naturally do this, so we'll snap a pole to the top of the central point, then using free place, build another pole right in front of it. Then delete the back one as well as a 1 metre beam on the floor we used to get the central point. Now select the 1 metre pole and hold shift to free place. Looking from behind with your camera scrolled all the way in, point your cursor at the floor beneath the pole and move it up until the placement switches to building it onto the pole, then build it. This will now give you a beam snap point roughly 0.5 metres up from the floor. Snap a 1 metre beam to it heading into the wall, then add one more piece that phases into the wall and snaps onto the end of this beam. This piece will give you a snap point for the brace once the chest is in place. Once a brace is in place, this piece can also be deleted, so don't worry about it poking through the other side. You can also now use this placement to place snap point pieces in your entire wall, based on how you are placing the chests. For this example, we'll be making a 4 high chest wall with the chest every 1 metre vertically and 2 metres horizontally. So use 2 metre beams and 1 metre poles to space out the rest of the snap points. Next is placing the chests. You'll want to do this 1 column at a time. This is so you can reach behind the chest from the side to place the supports. First, place your poles 1 metre from the wall. These will be used to place the chest perfectly each time. Place 2 quarter floors against the wall every 1 metre upward for building your chests onto. Normal chests can now be built in any order, though reinforced chests are taller and can only be built from top to bottom, as the top will phase through the floor above it, preventing you from building one on top. Line your chests up so that the bottom front of the chests are perfectly in line with the front of the beams and perfectly centred between the two, then build. If normal chests, you may actually want to place these close to the right so less of the sign will be visible in the end. As long as you do this consistently, it will look great. Aim to have the lower 2/3 of the right side of the chest faced with the pole. Once your chests are in place, delete the poles on the right. If you snap the original poles in, the wall can just snap in place. If not, then free place. With the chests and signs in place, you can now snap a 1 metre beam so that it goes from the wall into the chest but doesn't poke out the front. If you've placed everything correctly, that beam will now be supporting both the chest and sign, so everything other than the chest, sign and singular beam can now be deleted. If building more columns, you should leave the left beam and continue working to the left. It's a lot of work, but it only has to be done once, and you now have an amazing looking, super neat and convenient chest wall to store all of your items. Another method that uses the same type of support structure would be phasing poles through all 4 of the chests from either the floor or ceiling. The placement for this is a lot easier and can just be free placed by eye, though in my opinion it doesn't look as good, but also may suit your build's aesthetic. A super quick tip for making tiered chest walls is that when you are placing your poles at the beginning that you will be using to position your chest when building, use 1 metre poles and start 2 metres from the wall. This will allow you to tier them up to 6 high or so back toward the wall. Snap your first metre pole in place, then for every one after, free place them perfectly centred side to side, but just on the very back of the top of the previous pole. This will tier them only half a pole's thickness back each time, but look pretty great. Having them start 2 metres from the wall allows the use of quarter flooring to place and permanently keep without them protruding out of the front or through the wall behind them. If you wanted to do some chests with double lines, it is doable, but just a real pain. The text isn't far enough in front of the sign texture to be able to just put 2 on top of each other, so the only real way to do this is to make 2 surfaces for the signs to attach to. They both need to be on the right for the floating text feature to work, so I would advise setting up 2 wooden walls, one in the normal place for putting a sign in, and the other phased very slightly further away. It only needs to be about a quarter of the thickness of the wooden wall in order to get your cursor between the first sign and that second wall. You'll need to do the upper line first. Judging where this sign should go is quite frustrating, as this depends on both the chest type and the amount of characters in the line, as the amount of characters, not including the spaces to make it float, define how large the text will be, so for the vertical placement you'll just need to experiment. For the second line you'll need to destroy the closest wall, so you can place on the second. If you've got these nice and tight, even though there's a gap, the second wall will support the first sign. But if not, you'll want to phase a temporary beam through it to act as support, or if you are making floating chests, just whack your brace in now. Then place the sign for the second line. The good news is that the lower sign will support the upper sign, so even on a stone floor, everything will be supported. Though if this is a floating chest, that's not a worry anyway. Either way, the second support wall can also be destroyed. You may have noticed, but I have a thing for nice organised storage, so would love to see what you have come up with. Share your storage with me over Twitter or in the Discord linked in the pinned comment. I hope you fine folk found this video helpful. If you did, be sure to subscribe for more Valheim guides as well as streams and full solo playthrough coming very soon. Support by sharing the video to those who want epic storage, and have a fantastic day.